Ultrasound Gel Podcast. Ultrasound Gel Podcast.
Welcome to the Ultrasound Gel Podcast. I am Cray Bolger, joined today by our faithful founder, Michael Pratt. And we are going to be discussing cardiac arrest, that very non-controversial, benign, nobody's pulse goes up. Well, especially not the patient's.
That was good. I always think of cardiac arrest and ultrasound as an old married couple. There's a lot of fights in there, but they've been sticking together pretty faithfully.
Yeah, no one can break them up. They keep trying, but they can't do it. All right. So Mike's going to lead us into this discussion with a case, or rather compilation of cases on ultrasound and cardiac arrest.
Yeah, so we've been starting off with some published case reports. This one's a little bit more extensive than your usual case report, but it was so fascinating and I just had to share it with you. So it's titled Ultrasound Guided Chest Compressions in Out of Hospital Cardiac Arrest. This was published in the Journal of Emergency Medicine back in December 2020. So this was a really interesting pre-hospital study on out-of-hospital cardiac arrest. What they were trying to do was to see how well they could use a transthoracic point-of-care echo for monitoring their chest compressions on their way to the hospital. So what they did was they looked with their ultrasound and they tried to see, are the chest compressions in the right place over the left ventricle, much like what you would do with transesophageal echo. What they found was that the chest compressions were good in only about 60% of the cases, whereas in the rest they were either partial or completely inadequate. But then they used their ultrasound to actually change where they put their hands. They were able to use ultrasound to increase the amount of good chest compressions by doing things like moving their hands lower down on the sternum. So then after those changes, much higher percentage of good location for their chest compressions. So this was really interesting. I haven't seen a lot of data on using transthoracic ultrasound for adjusting your hand positions, but I think we all know now that this is feasible. This is something you can try, and it can be helpful in a similar way as transesophageal echo.
But Mike, won't that delay CPR? That's always been the controversy, right? Like, yeah, we know ultrasound could potentially be helpful. All of our H's and T's, we learn about ACLS, but the controversy has always been, but it delays CPR. And unfortunately, the literature has supported the controversy, even though us zealots would say anecdotally, that's not the case. So we're going to discuss this article, Echocardiographic Pre-Pause Imaging, and to identifying the acoustic window during CPR reduces CPR pause time during ACLS, a prospective cohort study. All right, so I'm going to breathe after that one because that was a lot of words. Woo! All right. So this was in Resuscitation Plus in June 2021, and this was Gaspari et al. As we kind of mentioned, we know ultrasound can be super helpful. Mike told you in the cases, we can put our hands in a better place. We know that not everybody's heart has the same lie or location, but we put our hands in the same place every time. We know CPR does better when we reverse the etiology of arrest. And several of those etiologies can be found